Okay, this is the Shared Visions weekly community meeting on February 25th. And today we have a quick multi-part agenda. Let me just, I saw someone editing it. So we're going to do a
Sorry,
quick,
I just dropped in. I can do it. You
yeah,
accepted.
actually, I think we should bump you to second in the list. Um, kind of a quick bit of recap. We had been working on the story questions, the story arc. So we want to do kind of a mock interview and then a UX check-in with Oliver. And then talking about the timeline, we have a lot of ideas. I think we have like 12 different timeline ideas, ways to actually build the thing. It's actually quite an interesting problem. And then some video infrastructure and kind of video gathering topics for Peller. All right, sound good?
Hmm.
All right. So for context, we had a great meeting last week talking through the foundational questions that Mel has been working on, and we carved them up into a story arc that basically includes like introduction, what were you doing before Vision Pro, the bulk of the content in questions are in the what are you now doing, so present. And present in this context means that basically since Vision OS or since Apple Vision Pro launched until today, and then a little bit of future, looking ahead, and then kind of bringing it all back to community at the end. Maybe even segueing the community section into the credits. Um, So over the weekend, I re-watched the workshop from last week and gathered a bunch of just kind of took the questions that Mel had started with and kind of tried to group them into these things and tried to rewrite them a little bit based on the feedback that we had from Ian last week. And my my hope is that we can come up with a document that we can hand to interviewers slash directors. Say Tim is going to meet up with Palo and interview him. We want to give him everything he needs to know to get Palo talking about himself and also to know like, oh, in this section I need to grab this kind of footage or this kind of B-roll, stuff like that. So kind of here's the script, but also here's what goes along with the script in terms of uh, capturing an interview with someone. But these questions are really intended just to as a starting point. And not every question here is going to apply to everybody we talk to. A lot of them won't. These are most of these are not most, but a lot of them are kind of developer slash creator centric. But we do want to talk to people who just use the headset, power users and people who are using it every day. So we may want to reframe some of the questions or just omit them. I would say it's better to just, you know, do it all in one cut and we just edit out the parts that are irrelevant rather than try to do a perfect interview. But my main goal is like, let's get people talking. Some people, like I can put Mike on the spot, we don't really need to come up with a lot of questions to get Mike talking about Vision OS. He can just do that. We can just point a camera at him. Same with me.
This is
I
true.
could just talk about this stuff all day. Some people are going to be a bit more reserved, and you need to kind of draw them out of themselves a little bit. So that's what these are for. And these chapters don't necessarily ever have to appear on screen. They could if we wanted to do nice little like chapter card transition stuff like that, but I have no idea what that actually looks like. But the arc is some kind of introduction, um, getting into the finding out who people are. So introducing the documentary itself is one segment, and then getting into the who people are, what are they working on, what do they do, where are they, questions, what have they been doing, what were you doing prior to Apple Vision Pro, and we can kind of phrase this question based on who we're talking to. Um, we're going to hear a lot of people who are already working in the XR industry and they've made a jump over to Vision Pro. A lot of us were waiting for years and years for Apple to make a headset. We're going to also talk to a lot of people who are already working in Apple ecosystem and took their first step into XR. And then we're going to talk to people who this is completely new to. And then this other question, this other section is called hype, for lack of a better term. But these questions are kind of capturing the energy from WWDC in 2023 up until the launch and up until whenever people got their Vision Pro. Not everybody got to experience it the same way because the US only rollout. So we all got to see the keynote or had the opportunity to see the keynote. Did you watch it? What was your reactions to it? Did you expect it to happen that year? Things like that. Um, Maybe capturing some of the energy between the keynote and the launch. So, like, did you start working on something right away? Did you port one of your apps or work on something new? Did you have to learn new skills along the way? Did you have any chance to go to the workshops that Apple did or get any support for them or try your app on device before launch? We have a lot of folks who actually did have that experience. Did you have an app on launch day? There were 600 apps on launch day, or native apps. There were 600 native apps and like 1.5 million iPad apps. Uh, we don't care about the iPad apps. No points for iPad. Um, One thing I thought would make particularly good B-roll is that email that we all got from Susan Prescott for thanking us for being there on day one. Um, did
Yeah,
you
nice.
actually travel? Oh, what was it?
I was just saying, yes, nice. That would be good.
So then, were you there on launch day? Did you travel to? Didn't mean to say lunch day. On launch day, did you go to an Apple store to pick up your headset? Um, and also, really, the question that kind of applies to everybody is tell us about the first time actually using an Apple Vision Pro. We
Hmm.
all got it on our head for the first time and got to use it. Sometimes at the store, sometimes we unboxed it at home. So those questions, we may need to refine this section down a little bit. I have a little bit too much for the hype section, I think, because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions, and we may just want to kind of cherry pick those questions. Well, I mean, we can edit the list down, but when we get an interview, we might just want to cherry pick them based on who we're talking to. Because the idea is the hype section is 2 to 5 minutes of the documentary, not 20 minutes. Um, and then this present section is where it gets big. We've got tell us about the things you're working on. What kind of skills did you have to learn? This is where it gets really interesting. We had to learn 3D graphics for the first time, 3D coordinate spaces, or modeling, or Blender, or animations. A lot of people had to learn Swift for the first time to come over from Unity or Unreal Engine. And then also the kind of the new stuff that people are inventing whole cloth, like new types of UX, new types of storytelling that are kind of native to this platform. Um, Frustrations and difficulties you've had. I think we could. I don't want to have a ton of negativity, but I do think we want to have a space to talk about the challenges that we've had. Things like lack of resources, lack of documentation, kind of feeling isolated at times. Reality Composer Pro, just full stop. Um, and then the section that Ian contributed, have you made any sacrifices to focus on Apple Vision Pro? So, has this taken you away from other work? Uh, Things like that.
Yeah, I like that one, and yeah, I thought that's going to be really powerful.
Mhm. What's your favorite thing to do with Apple Vision Pro to kind of bring it back up in tone a little bit? Get people talking, uh, not so much from a developer perspective, but like, what do you do with the headset? Do you have FaceTimes? Do you watch videos? Do you play games? Share some of your highlights from the last couple of years. So this could be a good place for anecdotes and longer stories. Um, Mike and Paolo and Steve could talk about going to the game workshop. I could talk about going to the New York event, things like that. Um, I could talk about it was really cool to see my Apple Vision Pro the first time. It was also really bad. Like it was really, really bad because I've been working in the simulator without the headsets. Um, then what are some of your most powerful memories from using Vision Pro? So like, did any app or experience or content really blow you away in a meaningful way? Um, and then how has Apple Vision Pro changed the way you work? So has it improved your productivity or changed how you work? And I had an example in there about the accessibility angle on that. And then kind of ending that section. So that's in my hope, that's the bulk of the documentary, the present section. And we get a little bit of future looking. Are there any issues or blockers that Apple needs to fix? So give everybody a chance to kind of rant for 10 seconds. I'm like, I need Reality Composer Pro. I need a 3D modeling software. Or we need better Houdini support, or drop USD and use GLTF, or like just like get everybody's wish list out there. I think it would be really cool. And then more subjective stuff like where do you hope this technology is heading in the next couple of years in terms of Vision Pro as a platform, but also the AR glasses, the kind of the speculation around AI devices and stuff like that that are going to be built on the tech. And then maybe also giving people a chance to tease anything that they're working on. Are you building something that's coming in the future? This could be a good section for that. And then at the end, kind of bring it all back to community. So um, everybody who participated in this documentary found the community at some point because they found us. So even if they're not part of Step into Vision or Hacking with Swift, they're at least part of shared visions. And being able to talk to them about what that community has meant to them. Uh, how did they find people? And Ian had made a good case for kind of touching a little bit on the loneliness of working in isolation and also working on a platform that's not super popular. Um, and then kind of how we got around that, or we fixed our own loneliness problem by finding each other, things like that. Uh, Calling out some of the other great events like the Vision Hack, that's where Mike and I met. Reality Hack is where Paolo and I met. Um, Reality Hack, Oliver got me invited to Reality Hack in the first place through an introduction, so things like that. And then maybe a good moment to like make a couple of people cry. Like, what impact has the community had on you? Has somebody from the community like helped or inspired you? You kind of do your best shot to make your mentor cry, type of thing. Uh, So yeah, that's the structure. What do you all think?
Yeah, I like it.
Sounds good.
I had there were just some comments and there were some things that were popping out of my head. I was like visually from a narrative perspective. I was just like, oh yeah, I agree with Ian's loneliness because we introduce people separately and we have the idea of orbs. So you can have orbs like isolated and they come together. That's why we have this whole universe of gravitational things is we all come together. And I think that's a good narrative of like to realize like, oh, I can't do this alone, kind of feeling. So
And yeah, I 100% agree, but I think we need to make it could go from this loneliness and isolation, but backed by enthusiasm, right? Like it's our passion
yeah.
and enthusiasm. Like I don't want us pretending that we're these poor people that are lonely. I'm so
Very sad
lonely.
violin music and
Yeah, that's right.
black and
Yeah,
white
who can
background.
afford incredibly expensive device? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think we're going to get sympathy,
No, we're not.
but I like the angle.
Yeah. Show someone standing in the middle of a field of flat lands, and then that's how you start the shot of different people. Australia in the outland, just standing there, and
Yeah.
then you.
I mean, I do like the idea of the orbs. Maybe towards the beginning, they're scattered way far away from the user. They're all over the place, but they're all very far from the user and very far from each other. And towards the end of the documentary, they're all
We could
gathered.
almost, I mean, we could put them on a globe, right? Like we could do
The
pins on a globe that are orbs
So
you
that
can have
reminds me real quick.
and then connectivity.
the
I can
orbs are being collected in the timeline, so you have like as it moves. Yeah, just crazy ideas.
So I did a couple mock-ups of the glass orbs that I was talking about. These are spheres that are inverted. So we're seeing through the front of the sphere to see the back surface of it.
Hmm.
And you can kind of see that as we move around. The attachment in there is not billboarded, so we can see the depth there. And then there is an attachment anchor inside the Swift UI view, and there's also a spotlight inside that's shining out into the glass. So we can change the lighting of the glass based on just providing a different color or a different intensity. So this was just one example
Mm.
of like mocking it up. And then I also did a version of it
Nice.
that this will have kind of multiple glass things in the dome, and the person who is speaking or actively in frame could be lit up,
Hmm.
and you can see the light
Yeah,
traveling into the other orbs.
lovely.
So there's lots of possibility with this. These are oversized, like comically oversized, just for this demo.
Sure.
If you run this on the headset, they're like, oh wow, they're like that big. But so yeah, what do you think? Should we do a quick mock interview or get on to tech topics?
Go on, Tim. You're the
Yeah,
interviewer.
we can do it. I can do a mock interview of Oliver. I found my notes from
Let's put
when he was
Andrew
on
on
the.
the spot since he just got here.
Yeah.
You want to be our interviewee, Andrew?
Oh, I guess so. Sorry, I'm a little bit
welcome
late,
to
by the
lie.
way.
You're welcome to lie during this version if you want to save your good answers for later.
Yeah, normally I would have like some links and like look at your LinkedIn or look at your sort of get a sense of where you come from, and but I can riff on that though.
Do you have the document handy?
I don't
Do
have
I?
the document you were talking about. Where's that?
Let me drop it in the chat.
Oh, well, I may not be able to
would-
retrieve it because I'm on
I would
Vision Pro.
call out what Tim just said though is really good process. Is Tim won't be doing all the interviews, so like taking that 10-15 minutes before
Oh, I do have
you
this
go
one. I
help
didn't.
someone else with an interview, and like getting just minorly informed on a person probably substantially takes the interview up.
Yeah, Joseph, I
notches.
do have this one. I thought you were talking about the questions you were thinking of. That's
Yeah.
Are we
fine.
talking?
That's okay.
we're talking
I'll just riff on
Wait, no, that's the wrong
Andrew.
That's the wrong one. Hold on.
Are we
Oh.
looking at the Google Doc or the PDF?
No, we're just going to do a quick mock interview. I'm going to do one on Andrew.
There's a second PDF or a second Google Doc.
We should do it on the person who shows up for the meeting last. That's what we should do.
Oh, then it's some
And Samel, yeah.
Did you put it in the chat? Okay, hang on. I'll grab it. Okay.
Sorry, I slept in.
All right. So
Yeah, I just joined too, Mel, so I'm right behind you. I'm right in front of you.
Okay. I did look at all the things.
your comments in my
Joseph.
way, and I can't get past it. How do I close comments on this stupid thing? Google hates Vision Pro.
Yeah, they do.
They really do.
Oh man. So make it wider, maybe.
Hey, we got a YouTube app though.
That is
Yeah,
true.
well-
When it's working.
You want me to send you a PDF?
No, I'll just riff. Oh wait, interview questions. Is that what, or introduction questions? Past questions. So what am I looking for?
Starting at question chapters.
Okay, yeah.
So the idea is the introduction and past questions should be kind of
Yeah,
rapid
okay.
fire.
Yeah, I would normally ask this even before I start recording. It would be like where you're from. So Andrew, where are you from? Where are you located in the world?
Well, I'm from Australia. But
Okay.
I'm located in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, are you? Okay, cool. So you're enjoying the weather, I guess, right?
Yeah, 20 inches of snow in the backyard, so car is completely buried.
We lost him.
Oh,
It was-
didn't like my answers.
I know. I bet I'll be back in a moment. He realized I just did that to him on the Oratap call the other day to Tim. Like, brought my hand down to my lap, and it detected a tap, and that tap was on the skip button.
Yeah.
And I'm like immediately in another call, I'm like messaging Tim on Discord, like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to like hit the button on you 6 seconds after our conversation started.
Yeah. When I was in that Oratap mixer, I was in there for like 45 minutes and I finally met up with John Haney and we had such different reactions because I was like, hey, John, how's it going? And he was like, oh, not this guy at the exact same time. And I was like, that hurts, man. I was so happy to see you. Breaking my heart.
So now that with the new rules from Apple, is Autotap going to be able to go live?
I think so. Their interpretation of it was that those rules were particularly about user-generated content. But
Right.
because personas are kind of a fixed view, there's kind of a known amount of things that could possibly be in view. I think they would just want to protect people from like
Yeah.
inappropriate content type of
Makes
chat.
sense too. I mean, there's definitely a difference between a Apple filtered persona and just a webcam coming off of your phone, you know?
Yeah.
There he is.
There he is.
Yeah, sorry about that. It was a real short interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mel, just for context, we just did a quick run through the story questions, and we were going to do kind of a mock
Yeah.
interview to
Yeah,
see how
cool.
they work.
All right. Yeah, sorry about that. I pinched on the wrong thing and I ended up closing the window, the Discord window. So Andrew, yeah, so you're in New York City and
Uh-huh.
enjoying the weather. That's good. So what do you do? What's your day job like?
Well, I've been doing a lot of work lately with immersive video. I've been doing sort of VR 360 stuff for a long time. I did a lab at NYU a few years ago, and always been interested in cinematic VR,
Right.
and more sort of like 360. So always sort of loved the idea of being fully immersed. But then when I started looking at the Apple Immersive Video, and I'm a day one owner, or day two, because I had some problems scanning my face for the light seal. So by the
Yeah.
time I came back and ordered, I already was pushed down the queue. But I got it the next day on the Apple Store in downtown Brooklyn, and just completely fell in love with Apple Immersive Video and sort of the format of it, and just particularly the film Highline. And actually, I just wrote a piece I'd love to share with you guys about watching Highline and then thinking about the dramatic possibilities of Apple Immersive Video, because I feel like there's a lot still to be done with it in terms of like becoming more of a sort of narrative drama mode. I think Apple tried to Submerge to do something there, and I think there's some things about Submerged I really liked. But I feel like it was a director who was coming from a more kind of Hollywood sort of aesthetic, who was bringing a lot of his sort of flatty thinking to the Apple Immersive Video sort of format. So, but I've been working a lot and just looking at everything. Like every time there's a new app, that I'll kind of like download it and check it out. I was very happy when they finally released an update so you could organize things into folders, because I just had like this sea of apps, for like 10 screens or something. But I shot a piece that was originally in 360, and I've been converting. I sort of converted it to 180, like it was 360 top bottom, and I converted it to 180 side by side. And then the sort of up-res that I used Topaz to bring it up to 8K. It still doesn't look, as good as Apple Immersive Video, but looks a lot better than it did.
Can I interject there, Andrew?
Yeah.
We're trying to go through these questions,
Okay.
and you've jumped way ahead to the other section. We're still in introduction and hype.
Still introduction and hype. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for the redirection. I think I wrote this article, so all this stuff is just in my head. So,
Yeah.
but yes, we're introduction. So yes, being very involved in the Vision Pro. I have a background, like been doing digital stuff for a long time. I was at SiriusXM for about 5 years, running their experience design group, doing especially doing some of their automotive UI stuff. Bringing their entertainment into the car. And then I got laid off, and since then I've just been doing more kind of consulting work and doing my own projects.
So where were you during the announcement at WWDC 2023 when they announced the Vision Pro? What was your initial reaction?
I was actually at a friend's place who is also a big sort of Apple fan, and we were watching it together, and sort of really excited about the device. And then, like, I think a lot of people kind of gobsmacked by the price. It's like, wow, wait, did they? Because I think we're both guessing, somewhere north of 2K, and then when it was like 3.5, it was like, oh man, that's I've got to think about this. But of course, I bought it anyway. But it's I was surprised that it was that much.
And so did you start working on it right away, or but you're more interested in the film aspect of it, or
the film aspect is more, I've worked a lot with devs and have enormous respect for the work that they do, but my background is more film, and then originally, even before film, is in music. And so I've also been doing a lot of work in spatial audio, and when Logic updated, to be able to work with Dolby Atmos, I started doing that. And now I'm just getting really interested. I'm doing a lot now with DaVinci Resolve, and started looking into the Fairlight, capabilities of, especially with the Apple's own spatial audio format, which seems very powerful. So, but yeah, that's my focus is much more on video and music.
So your first attempt at using the Vision Pro was during the experience at the store, as opposed to like you didn't do developer labs or anything like that beforehand?
No, my friend did, and I almost went with him, and then couldn't make it that day. So yeah, my first experience was a demo at the store. So
The demo after you had made the purchase or before?
before, yeah,
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
because you said you had day two, right? Access to the device.
yeah. So, but they were doing as a like, I mean, I'm pretty sure they were doing like demos before the device was available in the store, as I remember.
Okay,
So
and I'm just curious, like, so you're uh had you tried any other VR devices, and what was your sort of initial impression when you first did get to try the Vision Pro?
yeah, like, I mean, I was almost thinking of doing an exercise of laying out. Like, I started with the Samsung Gear, and with a smartphone that you slot into the headset. And I had two of those, the Gear One and the Gear Two. I got the first Quest. I had Google Daydream, had any number of cardboards that people gave out at various
Hmm.
events. And then I still have the Quest Pro. That was the most recent headset I got before I never bothered going from the Quest Pro to the Quest 3 because I felt like it was, slightly better resolution, but I was sort of kind of a little bit done with Meta at the moment. So I was happy when there's other choices. So
So without trying to show my bias, how do you feel about the Vision Pro versus Quest experience?
I mean, every now and then, because the Quest is mostly gathering dust, but every now and then I have some friends who are doing stuff, and it's like, doing some kind of VR chat or developing an app in the Quest, and I put it back on, and it's like, oh, it's interesting though, because I feel like since the Vision Pro has come out, they've kind of lifted their game. I feel like the UI has even kind of, borrowed a bit from, or a lot from Vision Pro.
Right, yeah.
Um, but just in terms of the pass through, just in terms of the quality, it's nice, and the ease of use, the user experience. Like obviously, I'm extremely interested in user experience, and I feel like Apple kind of nailed that from the get go, like and have been improving it ever since. Whereas Quest, and I was in this thing the other day, and my controllers just stopped working. And I was like, my hands were just stuck up in the air, and I was trying to, I was like trying to bring my controllers back down to participate. So yeah, it's like for me at the moment, and I've tried out the new Samsung Google XR headset. I haven't bought one, but I went into the Google store and tried it out, and that seems a bit closer. But even that, in terms of the resolution and in terms of the experience, just to me, nothing compares to the Vision Pro.
Right. Okay. Now you mentioned earlier some of your present work. So can you sort of tell it like you're working on video, like shooting video? I mean, I'm curious what cameras you're using and what the experience of like getting those onto the Vision Pro are like.
Yeah, well, I shot the piece that I'm working on most. There's something I shot a while ago on a Kandao 4K camera.
Hmm.
So in conventional kind of that, and that was shot in 360, over under. Mel's seen it. I showed it to Mel, so
Yeah.
she's seen it, kind of a work in progress. But then I have the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and I was really happy when they said that, oh yeah, we're going to allow that to shoot spatial video. So I've
Hmm.
just been shooting a ton of spatial video, like as soon as I could, even before I had the Vision Pro. As soon as they made it available in the OS, I started shooting spatial video, and I was bringing it. I use Final Cut Pro as well, so I was bringing it into Final Cut a little bit. But as soon as I got the Vision Pro, I was able to start bringing the stuff I was shooting into that. And again, it was like I do love. I think this is my 360 background. I do love the feeling of being immersed in an image,
Hmm.
and so I always, almost as a default, I just kind of open it out, so I kind of blur the edges and have you know, I don't have like a hard edge to the frame, and I often have like an immersive environment around me. So I just like, having that, and I feel like spatial video it's not as immersive as Apple Immersive Video, but it still feels kind of magical to, like I shoot a shot of my son hiking or something, or chatting to someone, or and it's like, again, you just feel like you're there in the moment. So I think even spatial video is very powerful, and I'm loving actually the some of the work that Sam is doing, with the kind of spatial video journalism too. Like, I think that it has some power there in terms of putting you in the moment.
So do you find the resolution on the 15, or I think you said 50, iPhone 15 you said, right?
Yeah,
Do you find
yeah.
that, how does that compare to the Can-Do camera? Is it like comparable in terms of quality or?
I feel like it looks a little bit better, even, you know.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I shoot with the native app, and then I also have Spatialify, you know, which I've played with as well, which you can shoot at a slightly higher resolution, and that looks a bit better. But yeah,
Oh,
I
this is better
think
than using the photo camera app, you mean, on the phone?
yeah,
Okay.
I think and Paolo would know this. I think it's like it can shoot in 4K, whereas the native app is like, you know, HD.
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah, because I wondered about that. I shoot a lot of spatial photos and videos as well, and I've never really found them that great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, compared to the full immersion of Apple Immersive Video, obviously it's not, you know.
Well, and yeah, that's
Yeah,
another
that's a tough one to follow.
well, high price camera, and they probably have some secret sauce they apply as well.
Yeah.
Um, so what's your favorite day-to-day activity with the Vision Pro? What do you use it for mostly?
It varies. Like when I first got it, I loved meditating with it, you know. I found that like kind of magical, the way it would just sort of take you on this journey, and you'd sort of disappear into it, and the sort of the animations would kind of time to your breathing and wrap around you, you know. So, but mostly I watch a lot of content, you know. I watch all the stuff that Hugh Howe does, and you know, some of the other, looking at Amplium, and you know, every time, and that they're like the what was it, Prime, the one with the bluesgrass band that kind of, you know, I think they did a really nice job there, sort of approximating the quality of, you know, Apple Immersive Video before the Blackmagic camera came out. And now I'm just following, like, especially now that the Ursa is out, you know, I think there's going to be even more content. You know, there was a new one, the Middle East one that just came out. I was a very
Hmm.
early adopter to Explore POV, like when you know, he
Hmm.
first released like his first 3 or 4 videos. I was just subscribed immediately, and because he's from New Zealand and some of the stuff he shot was in Australia, and it's like, oh,
Oh, right.
that's where I grew up, you know. So going on a rainforest hike, you know, where, you know, near where I grew up was kind of pretty powerful.
So just to wrap up here, just the last sort of question, I guess, would be how do you think the Vision Pro has changed the way you work, the way you live?
I feel like the experience has been one of seeing this enormous possibility and still feeling excited about it, but also a little bit frustrated that we're not quite there yet.
Hmm.
I feel like there's so much more that can be done with spatial experiences than we're currently doing. I think a lot of people are still bringing things over from, you know, especially it's kind of like a slightly glorified iPad app, you know. And so every now and then when you see an experience that is like, oh, I'm actually thinking about this in terms of, you know, the capabilities of the Vision Pro, it's really inspiring. I think, and I had some frustration because, again, with you know, music, I saw, oh, Neumann's released this great visualization of spatial audio, and you can kind of plug it into Logic, and you can actually visualize the music all around you and kind of move it. And it's like, this is great, except, oh, hang on a second, it costs $500 for the so, and I was saying to Joseph, wait, is that? And he said, no, look in the small print underneath, it's $500. And of course he was right. So I was like, you know, I like it, but not that much. I think if I was working day to day with Logic, I would probably pony up to that. But I feel like that's an example, like the fact that Apple hasn't released, you know, a spatial version of Logic, you know, or of Final Cut Pro for that matter. You know, that there are these things that you could do with the kind of that interaction and that space that people still aren't taking full advantage of. So, you know, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I think it's early days. I mean, when I think about what we could do with the phone when it first came out, and businesses that came out of the woodwork based on just having access to a smartphone, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think Vision Pro is like, I think it's a whole nother dimension on top of what we currently experience, right?
It's almost like the iPhone before the App Store, you know. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
it's like you see this enormous potential, and it's still kind of gathering steam. So
yeah, yeah. I think even Apple's working on where it's going.
yeah, no, well,
All
I
right,
think it'll be interesting. WWDC this year, we'll
all right.
see.
I'm looking forward to it. All right, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Awesome. That was amazing.
It's amazing.
Congratulations,
I,
Andrew. You're the first one, although we obviously will use this footage for your part of the documentary. But
Yes. No, well, I'm done now. You know.
so overall, what do you guys think of the flow of the conversation? Are there questions we need to tweak?
I made a few notes. I guess one question is, we're not going to have the sound of the interviewer, are we?
Not necessarily in the in the shared visions thing itself, probably not. We're going
Yeah.
to have kind of transitions from one person to another. We'll be kind of have a section that's about a specific topic, and
Yeah.
we'll be getting answers from multiple people. I think when we go to the library and click on Andrew, we could definitely have a full interview with him and Tim.
Okay.
The,
Yeah, because I was just going to say, like, with any kind of off-the-cuff questions where Andrew is answering, if you don't hear the question, you're not going to have the context of what Andrew was saying.
Right.
So yeah, I think we need to be kind of mindful of maybe kind of answer the question that's sort of written and then maybe do a separate or just separate those two somehow.
Yeah, trying to get the questions or the section, like when we're talking about your past before Vision Pro, um, just trying to keep those in discrete sections, like who you are, what are you doing,
Mm,
and then what were you doing before Vision Pro is kind of two discrete sections, so we can at least know like we need to reach in here for this section of footage.
yeah.
One convention I've seen is you'll see the questions sort of come up in like a text underneath the speaker, and then that way you don't have to have the interview on record, right? But like as
Yeah.
you saw, I mean, I basically was using my podcast style and just riffing on what he was telling me. I was repeating back questions
Mm,
plus picking from the list that Joseph had given me.
yeah. One of the
Like, I mean,
things
I guess it depends. Sorry, and I was answering the question, so I wasn't
mm,
following the flow as much as being in the flow. But when we're editing it together, is there going to be, and this is something I guess we can decide as we start to pull it all together, but is there going to be like the question and then, what's your initial reaction? And then like bam, 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 like have 5 or 8 or 10 people all kind of giving their own answers to that one question?
Yeah, so
Or,
like a good
mm,
example would be
oh,
what kind of things have you been working on and building, and getting 20 people answering that over the next 2 or 3 minutes, and then
yeah.
being what kind of skills did you have to learn along the way?
mm,
And some of those questions could appear on screen, or we could have a narrator read those out. But those are kind of questions that they don't apply to everybody who's participating, but they apply to enough of us that we could have one of those segments.
Mm,
Now,
If we do that, we're going to want maybe a mixture of long and short answers.
mm,
So, because if you have, I mean, you can't cut 5 different answers in there if they're 2 minutes long.
yeah, and that was my idea with
So,
these questions is these would all be relatively short.
yeah.
My hope was that I ask you a question, you speak for 10 to 15 seconds. We move on to the next question. The only space I had in this for longer anecdotes and stories was that the section what's it called? Share some of your highlights from the last couple of years. So giving everybody a chance to like in the middle of the interview just kind of like go off on a rant or a tangent, just talking about
Mm.
everything. Um, hello.
Hello.
sorry. I just had to chime in because I know I was trying to say something like how you're editing it. Is the video gonna be there? And then it's like the way I was gonna try and lead this off. And it's also a suggestion in the questions is to have like take us what it's like because the way I would transition to each of those segments is if there was Steve, I would say, take us to what that day looks like. So he's going to start that transition. He's going to be like, so it's morning of launch day, and I go there, and there's nothing there. And then we're going to cut to someone and saying, and I went to the store and it was unavailable. And then that's how I do these transitions. So it doesn't feel like it's forced.
Mhm.
And then you'll have
Mm.
someone say, and when I was on the device, I figured out Blender, or maybe I'll transition to multiple cuts of the sound of Sosumi, punk, 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 or something like that, or the sound of it launching. And those will be natural transitions that I want to do instead of having text. The only way I would put a voiceover is if the stuff that precedes the answer of the interviewee, they just did like a quick mental change. They were like talking about something so funny, and then they suddenly went to serious, like, and that's why it's so lonely, man. So I would have to like
Yeah.
figure out some way to transition that seamlessly. So, but that's how I would. That's how I'm already thinking about the edit. Is I'll find these folks that answer by trying to bring us back to that moment, and then and then splice that as who has the most energetic start or who has the most less start, because we already know these people as we're moving across the film. So that's what I'm already like thinking, but as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. One thing that Oliver and I did was we kind of left a bit of space also between questions to allow for editing. So yeah, you don't want to have to just kind of splice things too tightly.
Yeah, you don't want any hard cuts if you can, avoid it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody stand up
there's
and
an
tuck your toes between questions.
there's a feature in, oh my gosh, in Premiere that they use AI to sort of extend the footage just a little bit, and I figured that was a lifesaver, because what I used to do was I would get the
Mm,
last few frames topaz that, so they would
yeah.
just be like pausing for a
Yeah.
while, even though we still to get that shot.
My pet
Yeah,
peeve is
generative
when Chris
expand is good.
Lawley does he looks at his script, and you can, like, it's like the end of the shot, he's answered the question or he's done the bit, and then you see his eyes go like that, and he just hasn't given himself enough time to do the cut, and then
Yeah.
Uh,
Also, the interviewer needs to be mindful not to sort of make any noise over the top of the answer, because that could be a bit tricky to kind of edit out. So I noticed Tim a couple of times said, yep, 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 or there was a little bit of laughter. So, I mean, that's kind of great in a
I was do
conversational
audio on two
sense.
separate tracks that way because like I always
Yeah.
cut my ums and ahs,
Okay.
and because in
Yeah. All
regular
right. If
conversation
that can be separate.
yeah,
Yeah.
in regular conversation it's normal to sort of affirm what the other person's telling you. I
Sure.
find, right? So, but if you listen to my podcast, I'm probably saying yep, yep, yep all the way through, but you don't hear it because I cut it out.
Mhm.
Or if you watch the
Yeah.
video
I
ones,
think
I'm
that,
talking, but I cut my audio out.
The other
yeah,
thing
I
is
think it's only relevant if you're in the same room. Probably.
yeah, it may also be we should point out that like not everybody will be interviewed by a person in person. So,
Mm.
Mike may be interviewing me in my AirPod that, I'm just, you
Yeah.
can't see the AirPod, and I'm just kind of being prompted that way, but I'm just talking to a camera in my office or at the park or something.
Yeah.
So we need to accommodate for that. And like we may not actually have Mike asking any of the questions in our recording.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
I have a question around, was a couple of things. So, how much do we want to be talking about Quest or Galaxy versus Vision Pro? Like, is that something we want to?
Not much. No, I would rather keep it Vision Pro. I mean, we want to have some context for those who've been working in XR. So I don't think we want
Yeah.
to pretend like it doesn't exist. But I don't think we need to like I don't think Andrew's answer was inappropriate. I think he was just
Mm.
providing a little bit of color. But I don't think we
Yeah.
needed to have the additional conversation about like comparing Quest Pro and Vision Pro. I think it's just we can just
Yeah.
kind of assume that we all think Vision Pro is way better than Quest.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
probably a little bit impolite with my comments on Meta, so please
Yeah.
strike those from the record.
Yeah. I mean, within a couple of months of getting my Vision Pro, I like sold and donated all of my Quest headsets, and like they're gone. Like this is it.
I use my Quest Pro case more than my Quest Pro.
It's a nice case.
I put my Vision Pro in the Quest Pro case.
I love it.
There you have it.
The other thing,
Are-
like things about like the pricing of the Vision Pro. Yeah, I'm just wondering how we talk about negative things about the Vision Pro. Maybe just it's fine to kind of mention it, but maybe not
Yeah.
for too long.
Yeah, I think we could
If
touch
we
on
want
it.
Apple marketing to promote the video.
I mean, it is a real barrier, though. It is.
It's not has not been unremarked upon.
Yeah.
The price.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the anecdote you talked about, you both thought I was going to be around $2,000. I've told this several times, but like I had smugly saved up $2,500 for that year, thinking there's no way it's going to cost more than this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's worth acknowledging, but I don't think we need to. When if we have 20 people talking about the price, maybe our editors want to edit that down to one or two. I don't think we need.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
fine.
you don't have to publish everything that's talked about too. Like a lot of times,
Yeah.
if like when I was when I was working for Apple, for example, and we were still doing podcasting, I would always cut out anything we said positive or negative about Apple because I didn't want to get in
Mm.
trouble. But I mean, I think that's the thing is you can decide, if somebody gets political or whatever, not to include that, right?
Mhm. Any other
Anyway,
questions?
it was just a riff here in terms of this example interview anyway, right? So
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. It's probably more critical when you're doing like if you're filming with the Blackmagic camera, because you're going to get like 20 gigs worth of interview that you might not be able to use. So
Mhm.
I think it's for, to
Uh,
save Paolo's time cutting things out.
Yeah, I don't know.
well,
I don't know if we're gonna do full interviews with the Black Magic like this.
Yeah,
I think we probably want to reserve
probably
that
not.
footage for more like we got a couple people together
Yeah.
for like community cuts, community sections, B-roll. Yeah, but I don't think we need to sit down in front of Oliver with a Black Magic camera and do his whole interview that
I
way.
have
Andrew convinced me to use my iPhone.
Yeah.
I have not seen a good one-to-one interview on the Blackmagic yet. It's made people super compressed because of how the
Mm.
position of the lens are. And you've seen this in all the Apple TV docus that they all look oddly like they're like a big flat.
Yeah,
I can't explain what they look like. They
they
look
look
super
like a
weird.
billboarded version of themselves.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that just because the camera's too close? Close?
No, it's the lens. Like as it gets close, there's no way to adjust the IPD of, so there's like a set distance that you have to be. Once you go
Mm.
further, that what's on focus and what's not adjust. So you end up having this big version of yourself.
Mm.
Yeah, we need a whole workshop describing how these optics work.
Is that why in that Submersed movie the actor was too close to the camera sometimes?
Yeah.
They used a
Yeah.
different
Uncomfortably
yeah.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, they used a different camera for that. It was in the, yeah, they mentioned in the session. They had a regular stereoscopic 3D camera and then the Apple immersive one.
Mm.
Mm. I noticed in the flight deck one, some of the offices were like super big.
Yeah. I remember
Oh,
thinking that too.
Okay.
oh,
Yeah.
Oliver's got to hop off.
Sorry, guys, I've got to jump off. But we've got a good little team that have responded to the UX email that went out.
Okay.
Yeah,
Andrew,
cool.
I don't know if you want to join us on this, but let us know if you do. We're just going off the list that responded to the original shared vision sort of skills and talent list. But ping me if you do, Andrew.
Okay. I'll take a look.
Yeah, cool. And then I'll do a mini session with them over the next week or so, or try and organise it over the next week or so that we can take the things that we've got and evolve them. But I think it'll be nice to have a small concentrated group, and you can see we've got a bit of a focus on different aspects as well. So I think it'll work well.
Awesome.
Have a great evening or day, everyone.
Good to see you, sir.
Thanks.
Bye.
See ya.
All right. I want to be mindful of your time. So if you all want to keep going, we can. If not, we can save the rest of the stuff for next week.
Yeah, I could jump. I have to go entertain my son's visiting dog.
Dogs are a priority in this community for sure.
I guess.
I've been entertaining my dog for the last hour on this call. Actually, I'm sure you saw.
Yeah. We noticed. Yeah. Very well behaved.
Do you want to talk about
He's all right.
any of the app team stuff you were talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I can just kind
All
of
right,
give
you
a
can
heads up. Yeah, later, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Just kind of was rough drafting out a 3-tiered kind of process that's still in the initial brainstorm phases, but I just, after the last couple of weeks, and there's been a lot of discussion about a lot of different systems, a lot of different things that we're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Probably going to have something coming in the next week or so where we actually start dividing up into teams. We've got everyone's skill assessments in. I think we're gonna divide the app team up into 3 teams. One that really focuses in on UI and UX, one that focuses on the video playback and timeline, which I'm going to lead up, and then one that really focuses on video hosting, streaming, background assets, or how we're going to do it with HLS. There's a lot of discussions that need to be broken out into their own little sub teams. I think I've kind of organized it in my brain in a way that I think we can start to really divide and conquer on that. And so I, roughed up a basic doc. I got it over to Joseph today. We're going to probably review it in the coming days and just kind of release it as a, hey, this is how we're thinking about dividing and conquering. What team would you be interested in, or your skill set be good, best applied in, and start to really finalize some MVPs. Like, where we are, the purpose of these calls every week is to flesh out these things. So it's not like we had an expectation of this is exactly how we're going to do each of these things right now.
No.
But we've gotten to a point now where I believe that, admittedly, I am not a UI guy and I'm not a video streaming person. I'm very programmatic in my ways of thought. And so having a couple other sub leads kind of step up and say, I can lead the UI UX team in tandem with me doing the playback stuff. And the same goes for video streaming. I know like Dan, Paolo, there's Andrew. I mean, actually, probably everyone on this call except for me and Joseph has a fair amount of video streaming background or just knowledge. So I have accepted that I will probably not be the best person to be leading a charge on that. And so getting something in place like that, I think, is really vital here soon.
So these three buckets make sense. We've got Oliver's working with those designers, UX folks on these mock-ups, and when it comes to actually making the app, like the things that users click on and see, I think that'll be relatively easy. We have a lot of folks who can do that type of work. I can step
Agreed.
in, Jimmy can step in. We have so many folks in the Step Innovation community who can just build great looking apps. Particularly when the UX folks hand them a Figma document to go implement this. And we can just work closely with them to make sure we're meeting those requirements. The middle section, the timeline, that is probably the biggest technical challenge, and it's going to feed into the video hosting stuff.
Yeah.
I still like the idea, if possible, of getting for the main documentary, can we get all of the assets on the device before we hit play, so we don't have to deal with any streaming things, so we don't have to be online. There are going to be times where we want to show this at a trade show or WWDC where we may not have Wi-Fi. I don't necessarily want to be reliant on streaming for that.
Right.
So the timeline.
That's in my notes, by the way.
Yeah. The timeline, if it can play all of the assets locally, whether or not we can get them on the device in the app bundle or with background assets or download them from a server. And then the HLS stuff for the longer form videos, Paolo can probably help us a lot with that. I know we've got a lot of video folks in the community, and we actually have some heavy hitters who have built full streaming apps and services as well. And they can either provide solutions or actually just teach us how to do that stuff. So we have plenty of folks to tap for each of these categories.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I am leaning towards background assets. I was looking much into that when I was doing stuff for Lalo on the iPhone, and it looked like it was downloading a bunch of videos for it. So I do not know where they're stored and how we can access them, but I think because we have so many different elements, if they're stored, we can use them to assemble that timeline. We just need something to hold them off as it downloads, or maybe like a
They've got the APIs built for that, where you can have you can mark assets as required to launch, and the app icon is just kind of grayed out and inactive until VisionOS is finished downloading it. So that's a possibility. It's at least worth a test flight trial to see, like, can we throw a gig of assets in this as separate files, even if they're just a bunch of 3D assets and video clips. Can we require them all to be downloaded before we launch the app?
I wonder if the foveated rendering, the upcoming, capability to might help us a little bit with the streaming option.
No, that's going to be
No?
too expensive for this project. That is much more. You're paying for tens of thousands of dollars a month of server infrastructure to stream things like Fortnite or things like that. That's not necessarily for this.
Right.
Um,
It's too bad.
yeah. So this
I've
one,
got
I like the background assets because I really don't want this project to have a ongoing monthly bill. And with background assets, Apple gives us 200 gigs of
Yeah.
storage and plenty of bandwidth. So.
One thing that I don't know completely is creating a AWS Cloudflare server, which I think Mike would know how to do. So there could be we could do some session where I'll tell you, here are some files that I can do HLS ready, and then we'll figure out how to stream from that if we're gonna dive into some streaming, because that's the part I don't know. I know the other part. So let's
Yeah, and actually, hilariously enough, give a shout out to Dan because I know he'll watch this video later. He was like discording me his R2 Cloudflare tests at like 11:30 at night just the other night. He's like, click this link, let me know if it works. I'm like, nope, doesn't work. He's like, try this one. So
when he sent it to me, it was already working.
Okay.
When he sent it to me, it was already working. So okay, yeah, that was he was doing an RTMP stream. It was actually really cool. So
yeah. Dan's on the video streaming team, whether he likes it or not, I guess is what we're saying.
Yeah. He's been drafted.
Yeah.
I've got a question probably for Paolo. How do we want to think about like lower thirds in terms of maybe titling? Do you want to kind of embed them, or do you want to kind of have them as separate assets? Is that something you want to even do? Like,
yeah, lower thirds are important, and
I would love to have those as part of it, as assets in the Reality Kit pipeline. Because if we think about the format, if Paolo is over here talking, his video's over here, and Andrew's over here, and Mike is just transitioning here, having one place for those, similar to the controls and the captions and stuff like that.
Because we can put lower thirds in the editing, so we just know where it's going to pop out at which queue. But in the space, are we watching it like, is there an image, 3D objects, a 3D environment? Then it makes sense for the lower thirds to be its own entity that maybe a user can move away or just move instead of it being part of the video. It helps if it's part of the video-ish, so they can see who you are in the name at the same time. But so because the lower thirds being on 180, 360, and spatial video are going to be completely different because of the way they're placed in the video editing. But if they're placed as an entity, they're just totally separate from the video itself, and they're handled by this amazing timeline that I'm trying to wrap my head around to put in. So it's like a different 3D object itself. So we can position
almost like
it
if we could just come up with a little control panel, and that control panel can be your playback controls. It could have your options for captions and subtitles, and then this other kind of names, app names, things like that to go along with it to provide context. I think that could be a separate. You're in an immersive space viewing all those things, but that could be either an attachment in that space or another window that they can move around. But I think it's something that the users could control directly, and even close if they don't like. I just hide this whole thing and just let me watch the video.
A lot of what I'm doing in Illuma 360 is a lot of the assets, like whether it's a video or an image, I've got like a little info icon at the bottom, and you can just kind of tap on that to get a little bit of info. It's not always there, but it's accessible.
Yeah, and these orbs that I showed earlier, these could be this one representing the frog who is speaking right now. Tapping on it could show a little bit of context. I don't know if we want these scattered around the scene or if we want to bring whoever's talking like to the user, kind of right in front of them, and then around. But yeah, I think I had this idea of kind of like you tap on one of those to either pause the experience. Eventually, I don't think we'd do this in version 1, but like if Paolo is giving a really enthusiastic answer about something, I want to pause the video and tap on him, and then I can kind of see where we are in the timeline and also where we are in Paolo's long interview, and I can just go watch that interview if I want and come back.
Pause, steps back, video game, pause screen shows the timeline and the venue.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like, yeah, it's like a video game pause screen.
yeah. But I love the idea of thinking of this as a reality kit project first and foremost that happens to include a lot of videos, but the videos are all components of an entity that we place around the scene. So the things that we would normally expect, instead of putting the subtitle inside the video, we give the subtitle to the player to present all the subtitles in one place. So the user always knows where to look for the subtitles.
Yeah. It helps it with all the changing formats, because positioning that's going to be a pain. Trying to make sure it's all in the same spot.
It lets us do those rapid cuts too. Like if we have 10 people saying Reality Composer Pro, like put all of them on screen at the same time and like get everybody saying it as like a collective. Like,
so one thing I'm curious about, which you mentioned about rapid cuts, how do we handle rapid cuts with changing formats if that is bound to happen?
Ooh.
Yes. Oh, hi.
Okay.
Oh,
okay. Okay. So yeah, in Reality Kit, we're gonna load up we're gonna basically have like pre-provisioned players for each of the formats, and this is all just, I'm still cooking this all up in my brain, right? But then when we're passing that metadata over either embedded or as a separate track or however we do it, right? We're gonna have like scale, position, and then we'll just billboard it. So like we'll basically build a coordinate system which is into the negative Z in front of the user and up a certain amount, right? When you initiate the video playback on the initial start, right, you're going to grab a head forward in a world position. So then I'm going to be able to calculate anything into the negative Z and wherever I want to go. And then if I want 4 different videos to pop up like this, I'm just going to basically be saying coordinate space up 5 over -2, up 7 over -6, right? And then they'll all billboard to wherever your head is. So we won't have to worry about an orientation of what this is, and they'll all pop up in that Reality Kit scene as their own players being teed up by metadata.
What if it transitions from spatial to 180 and to 360?
Well, the 360 and the 180 will just exist on the sphere, even if we'll never unload the spherical player. We'll only pass what video it's playing into it as we go. And if we ever did want to go like full pass through for some sort of you like bring somebody back to a room, you would just take the opacity down on the orb and then bump it back up when you needed to reinitiate the video.
I'm imagining this is visually insane, and I'm very curious what that would look like. Because the closest thing was the U2 concert where it swapped from 2D to 3D, but we're moving this, so wow, that's crazy. I think it's cool.
Yeah,
I'm just like,
I don't think it's going to be that hard, actually. Like, honestly, I've got a pretty good idea of how to accomplish it.
I'm curious how we can transition from, like, I imagine, Mel, you'd have like this 360 shot of Australia with your drone, and then all of a sudden we go back to this intimate spatial video of you, and then we like suddenly, and you see the world, boom, and it's like full 360, we fly, and then we wrap and we get smaller. So you get like these establishing shots that could be 360 or 180, and then we get the spatial for intimate or something like that.
Maybe I think we were talking about this in another session too, but like that, almost like the immersive transition where it's not, it sort of wraps around you and then unwraps. Having that transition rather than being abrupt. I think that's going to be key to kind of, especially from 360 back to 180 or back to spatial.
We'll need like lights or something.
I'm not sure if this works with the sphere that Mike has put together in the demo, but with Apple Immersive Video and their built-in players that are in RealityKit and AVKit, a user, those players are basically progressive scenes all the time, and you can specify, go ahead and show the full 180 view or the full view, but the user can dial that down. Say this is too disorienting for me. They've also got some accessibility settings to automatically dial it down to you with certain types of motion. So we want to be respectful of that as kind of a first class user preference of like, we may want to immerse them in something meaningful, but if that's going to make them sick, we need to let them have that control.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's an important point.
Which
That's
also
the
kind
point.
of, it does limit our kind of cone, like a pie slice of the world of where we should put our action. Serenity was, when we were talking about this in December, she was strongly encouraging me, like, it's tempting to spawn these videos everywhere. Keep them kind of like that. Like, you can look around, but no one should have to turn their whole torso or spin around in a chair.
Oh no, that's not my intention. My intention is closer to the use of like how in the Sphere, when Dorothy steps out of Oz, we get the full thing, but really intimately it's there. So it's only reserved for moments of like boom, like something, I guess. Yeah.
I think it would be
I
really
think
good.
the Bono story, because that's where they did that a fair amount where they kind of were transitioning, and especially at the end when they went to like full color in Italy or wherever it was. But that could be another. I might watch that again, but just for how they mixed the formats there.
And I think some of the times where we would want to use 180 or 360 or AVI would be like if Paolo's talking about Lalo, showing some Lalo. Like, we don't have to take them through a whole concert, but like literally while you're speaking, doing B-roll is almost the wrong term because it's like incredibly sophisticated capture, but like
Still B-roll.
A- roll.
It's still B-roll regardless.
B+ roll. How's that?
But it also, what's nice about that is it gives you some context of what's coming up, like to your point, because I remember even some people saying like in the Metallica video, they kind of would just jump straight in and kind of immediately started getting motion sickness following, the lead singer through the crowd or whatever. So I think at least if okay, we're going to kind of transition to this, it's coming up, you're a bit more prepared for it.
Yeah. There was one of Apple's recent videos had they triggered the automatic thing where like too much movement, we've taken you out of immersive. And that's when I found out about this feature because I'm like, oh no, turn that off. Like, nothing is too much movement for me. Like, crank it up. But I'm one of the weirdos.
I'll send you a 360 skateboarding video. That'll be too much.
That'd be awesome.
No, wait, where's that setting? I didn't know that was a setting, but I need to turn it on.
Neither did I. Yeah.
It's a setting in there. If there's too much movement, it'll stop. So
movement
you can trigger it
itself.
Yeah.
So particularly, I think they rolled it out with the action cam video.
All right. Yeah.
Players, like if you are running down a street, you're going to be moving a lot. If it's not properly stabilized.
Even some of that skiing one was a little bit borderline for me.
Yeah.
The only thing that gets me motion sick or anything close to simulator sick, you can move the camera and rotate all you want, but it's things like this where you rotate down or up, but not against a normal pivot point, but like using the camera as the center. That is super disorienting. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
It's just not natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that on Apple's platform. I saw that in a bunch of Oculus games back in 2017, 18.
That Fly app where it's like Google Earth, like if you go from an altitude of like 10 feet to 100 feet in 1.3 seconds, that's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
I've been flying around in splats too long, evidently, because I just feel immune to it.
Yeah, you'll get immune to it, and you forget that everyone. Yeah.
All right. So what do we think? Do we want to focus on the tech team next week, Mike?
Yeah, probably. That wouldn't be an idea. We need to do a call to arms for sure. That's kind of why I was trying to prep that doc. Is just like, hey, we're at a point now. We've got enough
Yeah.
fleshed out that if we get divided into some teams of people with like-minded interests in certain topics, I think we can really start putting some stuff together.
Okay.
If we can also put in, I guess it's also part of tech submission. I know you placed that as a point because we're almost getting close to wrapping up the interview questions. So which means that people will actually start recording themselves and
Yeah.
submitting. So trying to figure out where to submit this and which server are we paying and where are we hosting them, or are we getting a hard drive or something like that? So
Yeah.
yeah.
We got to work all that stuff out. So, Mel, I know you're busy with your brand new startup, so I don't want to bug you too much. Do you want to help me review the story document over the next couple of weeks? I'm hoping we can
Yeah, yeah. Does Ian have any capacity to kind of come on board?
we can ping him for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
My hope is we can do like the story / interviewer perspective, and then have something that we could present to Paolo as kind of like a director / editor's mindset of like, these questions make sense, but consider these things in terms of making the cuts.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then we
Have
can have
something
something.
go on.
I was hoping we could get to the point where we can have a document that we hand off. Maybe we do 5 captures with like people in the core team, and then see how well is this working before we actually make a larger call to interviewers and people to get
Well,
interviewed.
shot list as well for people, so they can ask people to film them, or they can put tripods to try and film themselves for something, because it won't just be them. There has to be something that they're doing close-ups. So we'll ask them to film as much as they can and submit as much, because we're going to need stock footage of people, and if we don't have any, it'll be like, hey, can you film yourself? I'm going to go to Mike and ask him to do a bunch of things. I'm going to like close-ups of Vision Pros panning around. Like,
Yeah,
we needed like a
Or,
lot of stock footage. Yeah.
trying their apps, using their apps, seeing their apps in the app store, things like that could be good B-roll.
Yeah, Blender shots or anything. Yep, anything. Yep, anything that you have.
Yeah.
I guess people could also film, like, obviously the problem with filming with the Vision Pro is you can get that speaking of motion sickness, right? Like if it's a little bit unstable or whatever, but that would be one way to kind of like, pick up some extra B-roll or some extra stuff. It's just, through the goggles.
I got a lot of footage for that. It's one of my spring projects. Go through all my old footage and just make you a bunch of B-roll.
Yeah. Use Claude Cowork to go through and automatically tag it all.
The problem with our B-rolls, we might have stuff in the background that we don't want to be seen.
Just a dirty toddler-filled house. That's all I got. I'm fine. If there's like a random unicorn or a toy on the couch, I don't care.
Cool.
Yeah.
So next week we'll focus on tech and infrastructure gathering. I'll work with Mel behind the scenes, Mel and Ian, and try to refine this. But we'll kind of shift. Hopefully Oliver will have kind of the UX team will have kind of some marching orders for the app team in terms of like, okay, here's what we came up with what we talked about, and we can get cranking on that. I think that making the app is probably the easiest part of this project.
Making the front end of the app.
Yeah, like
yeah,
what users click on, easy breezy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you say that until 12 people give their opinions, and then
For me, I think the easiest is just having the raw interview inside the app, because I just have to clean anything at the start, the end, and the middle, and then you can all preload that as individual people, and then.
Yeah, and so the sooner we can start gathering interviews, we could also like building hype around the project, because we could be using excerpts from those on social media, things like that. So kind of like, we did a great interview with Andrew. We published his in the app. even though the app's only in test flight, and here's a 30-second clip of that or something like that. While we're still working on the documentary side.
We'll need some PR people to reach out to tech companies like tech articles like Verge or someone to advertise that we have a thing going on or something.
I wonder if Ian could help with that.
Yeah, and
A
then
lot of folks.
I'm gonna wait for someone says Vision Pro is dead, but these 20 something are keeping it alive. Like I'm waiting for that
Dude.
headline.
Literally, I saw Joseph put some tweet out like days ago that was like, now the news is it's got 5 new devices and this and that. And as I scrolled down, one of the next articles was like, chopping block, all these things are dead. It was like, wow, that was so on the nose, Joseph. It was crazy.
Let me see if I
Like,
can find
how
it.
long?
I was pretty
How long do I
proud.
hold my breath before the next, the yin to the yang of this story gets sent?
Yeah, let me read it to you because I was pretty
Days.
proud of my writing here. I said, Tech Press. Apple accelerates the cancellation of tapping the brakes on launching AR glasses, now slated to be abruptly canceled next week before a full launch in September or never.
Yeah, yeah.
I almost forgot.
I think it's great that Apple have spent billions of dollars for us 5 people to just have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
We're each worth $20 million to Apple,
Mhm.
or $200 million.
All that R&D.
Cut the check.
We're the people that's keeping the Vision Pro evangelists on the payroll.
Mhm.
Wait.
Awesome.
right.
No, that's a bad joke. It's recorded. You'll see this.
No.
We don't
No.
know.
It wasn't a bad joke. It was accurate. That's why no one.
Well, let's
Stop
go ahead
recording.
and stop the recording before we increment it.